Hello, my name is Jeff Rolka. I want to thank you for checking out my video. Consonants in singing give shape to the lyrics or the libretto of the piece or song that we happen to be singing. If we're singing a vocalese, we don't have to worry about them, and that's lovely. But a lot of the times we're singing lyrics, and we have to be able to phrase through the consonants in the songs in order to get the most out of the melodies that we are presented with. Here in this video, I'm going to break it down into 5 groups of consonants. We're going to go through some practices to work on smoothing them out so we get the most nice legato connections through the phrases. I'll point out some best practices as well as some potential pitfalls for each subset, and as such I'm going to have to chit-chat a little bit more than I might normally do, but I'm going to keep it mostly to the singing as much as I possibly can, as is my custom. Without further ado, let's begin with the lips, the sort of frontmost boundary here of our consonant domain. M's, B's, P's, and V's. Our goal here is to articulate them without overemphasizing the muscularity of the lips. So you want to try to make them touch without pressing them together. Too much pressure at the lips will distort the internal shape of the oral cavity and as such give you different results. Now, depending on what you're singing, you might want those results. So I'm not going to label it bad, good, or otherwise, but I'm going to say that for our practice here, we're looking for neutral phonation. And so we're going to try and tap the lips as lightly as we can. Now, I'm going to play these exercises in keys that are suitable for all voices. You might choose your octave accordingly. So some of you may want to start down there. Some of you will be very comfortable there, and others may still wish to be there. With the M sound, staccato, ma, me, mi, mo, mu. Resist the urge to make them long. We want nice staccato exercises. And ma, me, mi, mo, mu. B. Ba, be, mi, bo, boo. Again, lightly tapping the lips. And with P, the tendency is to really press the lips together and it becomes this plosive. Try to just tap the lips. Again, as little muscular engagement as you can. Ba, be, mi, bo, boo. Finally, va. If you find that the V is a little tense, think about blending it with an F. So it becomes a va, ve, mi, vo, vo. And va, ve, mi, vo, vo. on to the tongue. These exercises require the tip of the tongue to lift and touch just behind the front top teeth. Then we want to try and bring it immediately down into the well of the mouth in as released a fashion as possible. Think about the tongue kind of flicking from the top of the mouth back down to the well of the mouth. Na, ne, ni, no, nu. In each case, the tongue comes to rest at the bottom or the well of the mouth. We're going to start in the same spot we were a moment ago. Na, ne, ni, no, nu. And na, ne, ni, no, nu. La, same kind of idea. Again, the tendency will be to lean into that l, that partially phonating consonant. In the context of this exercise, in looking for correct placement and agility here, la, le, mi, lo, lu. Very staccato, very brief. And la, le, li, lo, lu. Finally, the rolled R. If you cannot roll your R's, do the best you can. It requires an awful lot of coordination of the release of the tongue and the flow of air. Ra, re, ri, ro, ru. And ra, re, ri, ro, ru. Now, it's worth mentioning that different languages will treat these consonants differently. And I am primarily looking at these consonants, with the exception of the R, from an English language singing experience. They are different than they would be otherwise, and in a lot of instances, singing in English presents some challenges that you wouldn't ordinarily see with these same consonants. If you were singing in Italian, the way that most of these consonants are shaped would actually make it much easier for you to sing. And so these exercises are in fact taken from Italian singing pedagogy. In fact, they are part of Caruso's method. The T's and the D's are the next on our list. They are behind the teeth. In English language singing, we are going to press the tongue ever so slightly more towards the hard palate, than in the previous exercise. Again, we want to do only as much as we have to get the articulation. If you were singing this in Italian, you would have the tip of your tongue more or less between your front teeth. It wouldn't be quite so high and it wouldn't be pressed into that bony palate. But here we're going to do that in order to learn how to do it. Again, only as much pressure as is necessary. Immediately get the tongue into the well of the mouth in as released a capacity as you can. Ta, te, ti, to, tu. And ta, te, ti, to, tu. Da, de, di, do, do. Similar. Da, de, di, do, do. And da, de, di, do, do. Da, on to sibilants. Here, the S is going to be our lead-off vowel in this pairing of two. It's X and Z. Think about the S as the soft C from the word Cinderella. It's not quite like hiss or anything like that. That tends to be less than pleasant in most instances. Again, there are going to be situations where you might wish to do that, and that's totally cool. But in general, in a sort of neutral mode of phonation for that, think of it more as Cinderella, where it's not quite so like a snake hissing. Z is a somewhat more emphasized form of the S taken from Cinderella, Zinderella. You might try pronouncing it like that, Cinderella, Zinderella. Very, very similar in how we're going to articulate them, how we're going to sing through them in our phrase. Again, I want to remind you, very staccato on these exercises. Sa, se, si, so, zu. In all instances, the tongue is kind of riding the well of the mouth throughout the articulations. And sa, se, si, so, zu. And za, ze, zi, zo, zu. A slight greater emphasis on the z sound to get the z sound there. And za, ze, zi, zo, zu. Finally, we have perhaps the most challenging set of consonants, particularly for those singing in English language, and those are the guttural consonants, or those that generally are articulated by use of the rear of the tongue and the throat. The trick here is to try to not engage as much of that musculature as might normally be our custom in singing them. We're going to start with the hard C sound. Think about this as the k, k, k from kerosene. It's not quite so k, where you feel the rear of the tongue lift and engage, and there's a distortion in the rest of the soft tissue in the oral cavity. We want to have the tongue be as flat in the mouth as we can, again, resting in the well of the mouth. You may feel a lot of the resonance of these sounds in your sinuses, and that is in fact desirable for these practices. So when we do this, ka, ke, ki, ko, ku, it's a center mass lift of the tongue to issue the articulation, and then it immediately disperses down into the well of the mouth. Again, beginning right here, or there. And ka, ke, ki, ko, ku. Ka, ke, ki, ko, ku. And G. Similarly to the K sound, you'll feel it wanting to be further back. Try to keep it more forward. Ka, ke, ki, ko, ku. And ka, ke, ki, ko, ku. One more. The beautiful thing about this is that with a little bit of practice, you actually get a lot more than just the ability to use these consonants and articulators effectively in your song. You actually get what one might think of as really great overall sound placement. Short staccato exercises like this, where you're maintaining your engagement and working through the articulators, can really help to find the placement of the vowels. We've gone through all 5 cardinal vowels many times in this exercise. Try to do the exercises with as much release as you can as you practice them. See if you notice places where you're holding on. Maybe your tongue is flexing. Maybe your cheeks are flexing. Maybe when you're singing the exercises, you're noticing your jaw moving rather aggressively along with the exercises. See if you can learn to isolate those elements out so you're gaining more and more release from your voice, and you will bring forth the natural, beautiful resonances that you have there in your instrument. As always, I do hope this helps. Thank you if you've chosen to subscribe, and if you haven't yet, I hope that I've earned your subscription today. There are lots of ways that you can support my channel, not the least of which is Patreon, where you can get my notes and practice along PDFs for these videos, and even MP3s if you like. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Jeff. Take really good care of your voices, enjoy singing, and hopefully we'll see you again. Bye.